What's good, ladies and gentlemen? This is your boy Bunny3000 here to give you my impressions of Tom Clancy's The Division closed beta. I was given access to this game, or to this game's beta, via pre-order of the game. I've already deemed it something that I think I'm really gonna like, so I went ahead and spent the coin on it. Decided to get it on the PS4 since that is where a majority of my co-hosts on the Geekswagg podcast are actually going to be playing. So let's dig right on into it. As you can see here, right into the action, pew pew, all that good stuff. The Division basically is a little bit different than I thought it was going to be once I actually got into it. Originally, as I was reading some of other journalists' posts on what this game was like, I kept hearing the word destiny. And unfortunately, I don't quite see this game that way. For some, that's a good thing. For others, that's a bad thing. Not certain what side of the fence you guys might be on, but I think this is going to be a great game. Now, originally, when I thought I knew what this game was all about, I thought it was more of an MMO. Of course, that is because of the Destiny comparisons that I kept reading about. But as I play this game, I actually think it's a little bit closer to, say, Borderlands mixed with a bit of Ghost Recon. Now, basically the way you play this game is pretty much exactly like Ghost Recon. It is cover based. You have to make certain that you take cover, use your dodging, vaulting, all those other kinds of things. You have to, as you can see here, make use of your covers. And of course, all of the controls are exactly as if they were in Ghost Recon itself. You can just blind fire, you can focus fire, you can roll, you can switch all kinds of weapons, and there's all kinds of gear that is, I guess you could say, pseudo-futuristic that you can use. So some of the stuff you'll probably be used to if you have played Ghost Recon in the past. Now, what is a bit different is they have skill sets that make this game a little bit more so like a, not necessarily an MMO, but I guess you could say an action RPG. As I said before, I kind of liken this game to more of a Borderlands kind of feel that seems to have a player versus player section of it that is tailored towards, I guess you could say, Borderlands loot. You'll have a different leveling system in each area, your single player story mode, as well as your multiplayer Dark Zone mode. Now, as with every other Tom Clancy game that I've probably ever seen or played, this game is gorgeous. It has a recreation of a good portion of Manhattan, and I'm telling you, it is to the T. Buildings and everything, from Madison Square Garden to just about every other little area in there. Now, of course, they can't use all the actual names of a lot of these buildings, or even some of the businesses that are in the area, but you'll recognize the shape of the buildings and everything, as well as the names of the streets, corners, and everything else. That's kind of what gives this game its own atmosphere as you run through the town. Now, it doesn't necessarily feel as if it's a living city, of course, because most of this portion of the city is dead thanks to the infection, but you will have some civilians running around, and of course you'll have baddies running. Now, one of the big things I did notice about this game is you'll be doing a lot of this. Running around through the streets, looking around, looking up, looking down, sending these little pulses out to see if there's any enemies nearby. But once you do find them, the action gets thick, hot, and heavy really quick. This game was definitely intended for you to play with people, with other people. Co-op, of course. This single player mode is something that you could probably get through on your own. Really skilled players would definitely be able to get through it very well, especially after they get good equipment. But one of the good things about this game is if you play it with a friend, you'll be able to not necessarily breeze through it, but you will definitely be able to play through it a lot easier. As with most of the other Ghost Recon games, you're supposed to use tactics and figure out ways to get past your enemies, because these guys are outfitted with all kinds of weapons and they advance on you quickly. You'll start to recognize some of their animations and they slow down at times, but just when you think you got the upper hand, these guys will start lobbing grenades, they'll start sniping, some guys will start using incendiary grenades, flamethrowers, rocket launchers, just all different kinds of weapons and gear that you think you are the only one that has them. So once you finally get that out of your head, you finally recognize that, yeah, it would be good to have somebody to watch your back. Because once you get shot and killed, you are dead. Pretty much. Unless you've got somebody there. And if you have someone there, they'll revive you. Otherwise, you gotta respawn and start the mission all over again. And when you've got loot on the line, that's not something that you want to be doing. Nothing better than... And loot, my friends, is definitely what this game has. Stat buffs will love this game, as once you get into your inventory, you've got gear of all kinds, different kinds of primary and secondary weapons, handguns, whether it's light machine guns, marksman snipers, assault rifles, submachine guns, everything that has armor, all kinds of mods for every single gun that's out there, and each one of them have, of course, a color code that determines the rarity of some of the bonuses that they actually supply. Everything from damage per second, health, and skill power. Because skills are definitely the other name of this game. One of the more interesting features of this game is the use of your home base. In the single player mode, you'll basically complete missions, main missions and side missions, so that you will get tech, all kinds of different supplies, so that you can upgrade 3 different things. Those 3 phases would be medical, security, and technology. Upgrade the medical section and you will get additional skills and buffed skills and mods for those skills for you to use while you're out and about. Same thing for the other 2 areas. The tech and the security wing actually represent different skill trees that you basically can outfit and upgrade as you upgrade your base. Now, as I played the beta, they didn't necessarily have a lot of those additional areas of the base open for the beta. You were only able to upgrade, I think, about 2 sections of the base so that you could get a feel for what doing missions would actually do for you, and how that would advance the story as well as upgrade your character in a kind of RPG-esque kind of way. Thankfully, it's not a class or anything that you particularly have to worry about, so that you can go and you can switch up your skills or your mods for your skills at any time using your little menu. Now, the base has all different kinds of vendors. They'll sell weapons, technology, mods, all different kinds of things for your character to use throughout adventuring. Also, you'll be able to use apparently a crafting section of the game as well. You can deconstruct just about anything in this game, and then I suppose you'll actually be able to craft and build your own weapons, mods, gear, and so forth as you go along in the game. Definitely the most tense moments of the beta were in the Dark Zone. In this area, you're able to team up with 3 other strangers or friends and go into a player versus player area where everything that you find is infected, which means all the little powerful loot that you're able to find off the boss level enemies that are roaming and sitting around in different areas have very, very different gear than the gear that you find when you're roaming around the single player area. The catch is, the only way that you can use this gear is if you extract it. As you can kind of see here, whenever you extract, you have to send up a flare up into the air to call in a helicopter. Once that helicopter is called, everybody's map lights up in this extraction area, which means anybody that's on that particular server will be able to come in and actually see who's trying to take out some of this loot from the area. which means all of the quote-unquote rogue agent talk that was going on in E3 is basically just other players that decide to shoot at you or try to take your loot right before you're able to get the extraction. And that's basically what the Dark Zone is. You're basically running around trying to get a bit more loot. It'll probably sustain a few more players and will last a bit longer. I'm sure they'll have additional areas and additional gear and everything that they'll add via free updates as well as paid updates in the Dark Zone as well as the single player area. But you could tell that they have something planned for it, because when you go into the Dark Zone, you get a completely different experience level than you do from the single player area. And of course, all of the gear that you end up finding, loot-based gear that you end up finding, has its own experience level tied to it as well. So unless you have a high enough experience level for that gear, you won't be able to use it until you adventure around some more. So, in that spirit, a lot of the players that you'll see running around in this area will also be willing to just take you down for no reason, because you get a lot more experience points for taking out players, of course, than you do the bosses that you encounter. And that's when it gets interesting. Rogue agents give you a lot more experience than other agents. The Division beta was actually pretty fun. I enjoyed running around and remembering all the different controls and stuff that I had to use whenever I was playing either Gears of War or even Ghost Recon. I remember all the co-op missions that I used to play with Dirty Helmet in that game were just as hard as some of the missions in this game. That's also something else you'll have to look forward to. You can actually replay some of the missions, or essentially all of the missions, at a higher difficulty level. All the enemies that you faced before will essentially just be bigger bullet sponges. You'll have to unload 2 and 3 clips into certain bosses, or even some grunts, just to take them down. And of course, with all the different gear and skills and mods and abilities that you've acquired, that'll make that a little bit easier. So of course, running to that higher difficulty level isn't always advisable. But what it will do, of course, will get you bigger and better gear. So, Tom Clancy's The Division, it looks like it's going to be a good one. It'll definitely depend on your comfort level with the control scheme. Those who are looking for the whole Call of Duty-esque fast-paced explosions, run, shoot, and accuracy kind of deal, you're not going to find that here. You'll have to be a bit more tactical in how you approach certain situations, especially once you get into the Dark Zone and have to play against other players. It's definitely a numbers game, but it looks like it'll be a welcome one. It's your boy Bunny 3000. Thanks for watching.